Hello there. I'm Dave,
And I'm John.
and this is Coffee and Capes, our podcast about two of our most favorite things talking about coffee, drinking some coffee, and talking about geek culture.
Yeah, I might be a little too excited for this podcast.
We're pretty excited about this episode. I forgot to look what number it is. It's like 39, maybe
I think 38, 39.
38.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. And I post them and I post the numbers. So I should be able to tell you.
Well, and when I save them, I always save the episode number on it, but I can
never remember. I don't know. I don't know what it is. That doesn't matter.
No, nobody out there cares. It's episode something or other.
Yeah. If you're tuning in, you figured it out. We're still here.
Right. And we're glad that you've tuned in. Thanks for finding us.
Yeah.
In whatever way that you did. We're in all the podcast channels, such as
we're in Spotify. We are in iTunes, Google Podcasts. I didn't even know that was a thing. When I look at it, like it still surprises me. All the different podcast channels. We're on YouTube. I'm a little behind on posting. Hi guys. Posting our YouTube episodes. I hope to get caught up on that today. You can watch them as well through our website at coffeeandcapes.com. If you type that into your browser and it takes you someplace that is not us, you can also type into your web browser comics.coffee. It's like the simplest. It's the simplest thing. I still can't believe .coffee is a thing. I'm so happy .coffee is a thing.
It kind of makes the world. It's a teeny tiny little bit of joy in an often joyless world to have a .coffee.
I don't know that it's an often joyless world. Well, that seems harsh, man. I mean, you can find joy anywhere in life.
It's true. We do find a lot of joy. I find a lot of joy, but I know that that's not the case for everybody. So, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just looking out for the mass. I'm a man of the people, John. Don't you know this?
Yeah. It's pretty brave to speak for all the people, Dave. We call those people despots.
Well, that's kind of what our podcast is about today.
Kind of, yeah.
But before we get to that, those are all the ways you can find our podcast. You can also connect with us in a lot of ways, and we love to have John run those down.
Yeah. So we're on Instagram at coffee_N_capes. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. My friend Amanda said we should absolutely be on TikTok because she thinks it would be hilarious to see us trying to figure out TikTok. So maybe we'll end up on TikTok, guys. Just two like guys who have no business being on TikTok, awkwardly trying to like figure out what to do on TikTok. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
What could possibly go wrong with the two of us on TikTok?
Yeah, right. So we're there.
Maybe we'll go viral for just being like super old, weird, dumb dads. Is that?
I'm pretty sure that's a possibility. Like, they'd just be like, look at these two idiots, like trying to figure out TikTok. What button do I press?
Where do I push the button? How do I record this thing? Am I knock knock? Is this thing on?
Am I on? Hold on, I think I'm getting a call. Hello? So you can also, again, find us on the internet. Our website, again, is coffeeandcapes.com. If you can't really figure that one out, we don't blame you. So we did change the URL. You can now just type into your web browser comics.coffee.
Well, we didn't change the URL. We just added to the URL.
We added to
the plethora of URLs that you can use to get to.
Yeah, there's quite a few, but comics.coffee is the easiest one to type into your thing. That'll take you to us. And then you can email us at supers, SUPERS, at coffeeandcapes.com. Shoot us an email. We'd like to hear from you. We have one actually that I meant to respond to that asked us to be on their podcast.
Oh, excellent. We need to do that.
I know, right? And we're going to be on the Genre Geeks podcast at some point in the not too distant future. I think we're slotted to go on there to talk about Miss Marvel.
Sweet.
So,
and next week we're working on having a special guest, our first special guest, I believe, next week, if all goes well.
Yeah, if we can make it happen. So that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, we're looking forward to a conversation with Ruben Nahara. My apologies if I'm not saying that entirely correctly. but he is a comic book creator, and we're looking forward to talking to him
What
about his upcoming.
book?
It's an Archie comic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
The best Archie comic ever.
Yeah, I think it's a one shot, is what he was saying, if I understand correctly. So pretty excited to have our first comic creator on the podcast, and this may set a precedent. We may end up having more guests on the podcast. That's our goal anyway. We have some friends that we'd like to have on here too.
Yeah, so start lining up those requests to be on here. I know.
Yeah, and to all of our friends that we have threatened to bring on the podcast and expose to the world, you should probably get a little microphone. By the way, I just want to point out.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Well played. Well played. So what's our featured coffee today, John?
We're still kind of featuring Asgardian Amber. So
yes,
I have a bag of it here. This one's actually going out to somebody who won it on our Whatnot auction last weekend. I'm a little delayed in getting that out to him, so I apologize. Anyway, so Asgardian Amber is a limited edition roast, guys. We talked about it. That's actually what I'm drinking this morning, aside from my protein. I don't have our normal cup. It's dirty. I used it.
How dare you?
I know. I should just.
You got to plan better for these things, man.
I should just order like half a dozen and call it a day. So Asgardian Amber, guys, is a medium roast, single origin. It comes from a pea berry, which is apparently 2 beans inside of 1. So it's a very interesting, different kind of berry. There's notes of blueberry. I can absolutely taste the blueberry when I take a sip, and it finishes with a touch of like milk chocolate. I can really taste it in this one.
Cool.
So I'm enjoying it, although it does come across maybe a little bit lighter. At least that's what Rachel was saying. It's to her, it came across a little bit lighter. I can agree with it, but it's still absolutely delicious, and it pairs really well with Ladybird Provisions coffee bombs, like really, really well.
What doesn't?
It's a phenomenal.
I mean, come on.
I know, right? It just, those things do well.
I'm still waiting on our delivery of some Asgardian Amber. I can't wait to try it. Little mead inspired coffee there, if you will.
Yeah. So grab some, guys. We do have a 4th of July sale going on this weekend, so go check it out.
Maybe get yourself a mug. Look how pretty this mug is. I mean,
the mugs are pretty awesome, actually.
I really like the coloring on this one.
Yeah, it's really nice. And then don't forget, on our website, we're doing a fundraiser, Gwen's Friends t-shirt, to help support Philip, the One True Nerd King on Instagram. Great member of the community. His daughter Gwen is going through chemo again. This is to help pay for her chemo. So all of the proceeds from the t-shirt go to helping with that cost. No kid should have to go through chemo, let alone twice.
Right. And honestly, no family should have to fundraise to pay for the treatment. That just,
that's insane.
I mean, that's a whole
we're not getting
its own
into
thing.
that
We're not
right
going
now.
there, but dude, we got to do better as a society at taking care of each other.
Yeah, agreed. So, but since we can't figure that out yet, we're doing our part to help raise money, and do what we can. So if you haven't picked up a t-shirt yet, grab one. They are super soft. I got one. I know Dave got one. A few other folks have kicked in and purchased theirs. So thank you, everybody who has bought one already. They are being printed and on their way. So grab one. Grab one now. Do it. Do it now.
Do it now.
Yep. Hey.
All right. Hey, you said we have a note for fan fiction today.
We do, actually. So this one came in last night from Andrew, who is booknerds_unite_ ×3. So his
I like the book nerds.
Says, right? We love book nerds.
Yeah.
So Andrew was nice enough he asked about how our coffee subscription for Coffee and a Comic worked. We responded. He came back and told us it was showing us the comic was sold out, the comic portion. We weren't aware. So there was a glitch in how that system was set up. So I went in, fixed it. It works now. But yeah, thank you, Andrew, and for taking time to let us know, because
we really appreciate
honestly,
that.
we wouldn't have found it. I don't go in and order that for myself, clearly, and it's not something that I need to do through the website. So I wouldn't have known, Dave wouldn't have known, we wouldn't have figured it out. And who knows how many of you out there have tried. We apologize for the technical issue, but it does work now. So please feel free, go in. You can actually put in up to 4 items. So you could do a bag of coffee and 3 comics. You can do 2 bags of coffee and 2 comics. You can do 3 bags of coffee and 1 comic. If you really just want to get super jacked up on caffeine, you can also do any combination leading up to that. In terms of number, you can do 1 and 1, 2 and 1. It's up to you. And if you don't want comics, you can still subscribe to just coffee, and you save 15% on your subscription. So go check it out. It's there. It works. Thank you again, Andrew, for letting us know. We really appreciate you doing that.
See, that's geek culture at its best, looking out for each other, helping each other out. We really appreciate it. And 100%. Honestly, folks, we are the very definition of a small business. There are 5 of us, and we're trying to figure all that out on our own. So and honestly, mostly it's John doing that, and he does amazing work. So thanks, buddy.
Yeah. And we are adding new comics all the time to the website. So go to the website, you can see the newer stuff that's either just come in or is coming. Dave's been busy adding in a bunch of new stuff that will be dropping next week. You can go in and purchase it ahead of time. So yeah,
but we can't ship it ahead of time. That's a no.
We cannot ship it ahead of time. We just won't do that. That seems rude. All right.
Seems like a good way for us to get in trouble. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
All right. Well, I think those are all the preliminary, the first things.
Yep, you're good. You're good, Porky.
Yeah, for sure. What are we talking about today, John?
Hold on, really quick before we go into that, brain. Pinky, I never understood why Porky Pig had a stutter.
I don't know.
It was like one of those weird random things. He always I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. All right.
I don't know. It was probably maybe it was a 50s, 60s thing.
Maybe
every Bond villain has some sort of scar or physical weird thing. Why?
Great, though. Because it makes them memorable.
Okay.
Yeah. It makes them memorable.
I think it came close to being if you have some sort of physical, not even necessarily disability, you just have some sort of thing that makes you evil. Let's not do that.
No, I don't think that's it at all. I think that what it stems from is Ian Fleming. Right? I'm a big James Bond book fan. When I was growing up, when I was in my teens, I read a ton. Whether it was James Bond, Stephen King, comic books, didn't matter. I read a ton.
Yeah.
And having gone to school for creative writing, you have to write things to help people stand out in writing. Right, something unique, original, that kind of makes them appear in your mind. So if you're creating a villain, right, the description of James Bond is this, and the description of the villain is this, and there's that different. So I think it's just a descriptor. It's why does Darth Vader have a black helmet?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just you gotta make your villain have something, for instance, a distinct way of breathing.
Yes. And it's a whole, while it's super scary, right? Yeah, Jason Voorhees and the hockey mask and everything else. I think it's nice because it's not grounded in the same realism that a Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer is.
Yeah,
right, it takes it and puts it into fantasy land. So I don't think it's done to
That's pretty good. That's the best explanation I've ever heard of that. Good job, John.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. I'm here. I'll be here all week between Friday and Friday. However,
that's not why you called.
That's not why you called. But thanks for calling, Kevin Costner. We appreciate you. I appreciate the call this morning. I think you're great too. Kevin Costner did not call us.
Just in case there was any actual confusion about that.
In case anybody's like, holy shit, Kevin Costner called you? No. I'm just delusional.
But we are talking today. Let's finally get to our topic here. Today,
we're getting there.
We are talking about one of the greatest cinematic villains of all time. Maybe the greatest cinematic villain of all time.
Oh, yeah. Can we just say, like, it started with Rogue One, elevating him to a whole different plateau. And this series really took it like in a whole new direction.
For sure.
However, I also want to say that I think we've just seen one of the greatest Jedi of all time. Oh, man.
That's correct.
I'm in a fanboy.
We're talking about the finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi. A couple weeks ago, a few weeks back, we did the midterms where we checked in on it halfway through the Disney Plus series. And today, now that the finale has dropped a little bit ago, this would be a good time to remind you of our spoiler alert warning that we are all about the spoilers here. We have zero intention and frankly, zero ability to keep from dropping spoilers all over the place. So
yeah, let's take intention out of it. Let's just be honest and call it what it is.
Yeah.
We can't keep our mouths shut because we
correct.
get super excited. Like
I am geek out about all the things
all over this thing today.
Yes, for sure. So if you have not finished watching the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus and you don't want to have it spoiled, now would be the time to make use of your pause button.
Yeah.
You sit down or stand up and hit the pause button and
enjoy the lovely hold music. All right.
Anyway, and we're back. So, hit the pause button, go finish watching it when you can, and we'll be waiting here for you. The rest of you that don't need to do that, we're just gonna
let's do this thing.
Let's do this thing. Hello there.
Hello there. It's the greatest. I'm just gonna get everything with that on it now. Hello there. So we're kind of talking about the second half of Obi-Wan season. I want to address something though that like I do think has some validity that is a detractor from it that has been talked about a little bit online, and that is there are times that the cinematic experience and the set of things seemed like a little lower quality.
Mm-hmm.
In certain instances, and I agree with that. I would agree with that. I think that there are moments where I kind of, as I was watching, I was like, well, that's weird. Like that seems not up to like the normal par that we see with a lot of the Star Wars series, right? I thought Mandalorian was super clean from beginning to end. I thought Boba Fett was super clean from beginning to end, in terms of cinematic styling and set production. But there were just moments every now and then in the Obi-Wan series where it seemed like it dropped a little bit, which was odd because then you get to like other scenes and you're like, oh my god, that's amazing. right? Like Darth Vader pulling a starship that's trying to escape out of the sky back to the ground and then tearing the hole open.
That was some peak Vader right there. That was really
Disney.
Really good.
Thank you so much for giving us finally on screen like that view of like Vader's true like this.
Well, to me, that was one of the best through lines of the whole series. What was that episode? I can't remember what happened in what episode.
I thought it was 5.
Sure, but I was gonna go back earlier and say the episode where Vader and Kenobi first face off.
And he
Kenobi's like running for his life, and then and terrified, and then Vader like ends up throwing him in the fire. Like what? That was crazy.
There was that kind of like Friday the 13th ish feel to that too, because like you said, Kenobi's like running for his life, and Vader's just carrying a lit lightsaber and walking,
Right.
and then peers around the corner as Kenobi thinks he's clear, and nope.
Yeah.
I love how Vader never runs anywhere.
Right.
He just struts with a cape billowing out behind him. Oh man. But so, and I'm a huge, we've talked about this so many times. I'm a giant Darth Vader fan. Like Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi are probably two of my favorite Star Wars characters for very different reasons. This series has been something that I have been like dying to see, is those two coming back together and how that went.
And the torturous relationship between the two. Yeah. I feel like, I think if nothing else, they absolutely got those parts right in this series.
Yeah. You can't say they didn't. Well,
I mean, somebody could, but they'd be wrong.
But they'd be wrong. Yeah. You're just, so if you're out there saying that didn't do what it should have done, you're wrong.
Entitled to your wrong opinion.
Yeah, you're entitled to your wrong opinion. Very rarely do we say that, but this is one of those cases where I am going to die on that hill of they nailed that. Man, Ewan McGregor too. I saw this article from, I think it was The Guardian, that said Obi-Wan suffered because of Ewan McGregor in the role. And I thought,
what?
Yeah. And I read the article, and it was the dumbest article I've ever read in my entire life. I think it was just written solely as clickbait.
Yeah, it sounds like that's just right. Like, oh, here's a hot take that'll get us some views. Yeah,
Ewan McGregor was bad as Obi-Wan. And you know what? You're a terrible writer. How dare you?
You might be a good writer, but you have terrible ideas.
Terrible ideas.
That makes no sense. Like everything about Ewan McGregor, you saw the pain. Like he did a great job, I think, of picking that character up. Like what would happen to this character? His family was slaughtered, right? His family slaughtered in Order 66. That's all he has. Yeah. That's the only family he has. He feels like a failure. He kind of was. He doesn't just feel like a failure. He kind of was a failure in a way.
His brother is the one that turned to the dark side. Like the guy he views as his brother, his ward, his Padawan, the one he was responsible for bringing up, is the one who slaughters his family.
Yeah. That betrayal cuts anybody to the quick. Yeah. And you saw it on his face, and you saw it in his movements, and you saw it in how like he had zero confidence in himself, and he couldn't hardly do anything with it. He had no force ability in the beginning of this of the show, and it makes sense. And you saw the pain in his face. Like I have zero patience for somebody saying that Ewan McGregor was bad as Obi-Wan. Plus, you see the little movements that he does, like the way he folds his hands or the way he strokes his beard.
Yes,
it absolutely recalls what Alec Guinness did in the original trilogy.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's brilliant stuff. He clearly went and looked at movements, at body motions, and just the way Guinness held himself and patterned himself after that. He made sure you saw those echoes in what he was doing. Like, like get out of here with your Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor's no good.
Right.
As Obi-Wan.
It's like, I read that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's a joke. It's clickbait. It is whatever. It's a writer who is looking to try and just be counter to everything that is actually accurate. There
are some things to complain about, and this series wasn't perfect by any means. No, there were a couple episodes that were kind of left me flat, but not the last one, and none of that had anything to do with Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Obi-Wan
or the one before it, like episode 5, where Vader pulls the starship out. We get third sister, who
Reva,
right?
The reveal of that story,
that was so good. Well, you kind of knew, right? So that was foreshadowed very early in the series, and you had to be able to connect that. If you didn't connect that, that's okay, but it was very clearly foreshadowed when they showed him killing all the younglings, and there was the little girl who looked so much like Reva, right? And then they panned to Reva as third sister. You're like, okay, this is her. right? But the way that Kenobi has that reveal, like, you're not bringing me to him, you're bringing him to you.
You're hunting him.
Yeah, you're hunting him, you're not hunting me.
Yeah.
Like, you're here for vengeance.
Yep.
Your goal is to come after him. And the moment where, you know, Vader realizes there's nobody in the ship, the other ship escapes, and Reva comes at him from behind and swings that lightsaber and it falls short.
Yep.
And he just turns around.
Yeah.
And there's that, the way that he just taunts her.
Right. Did you really think I didn't know?
Right? Like, did you really think I didn't know? Like, and he still, and that plunges to a depth of his, like, his dark side. He knew,
and he just let her keep doing her thing
because he was so confident.
Yeah, right.
He had nothing to fear from her, right? And he would use her to get to what he ultimately wanted, which was Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But watching him fight her,
that was a great fight.
Class all by himself in that moment.
Oh, like, for sure.
Just the
spin.
Yeah. She swings and he just force stops her lightsaber.
Yep.
You're like, all right, you are the baddest man in the galaxy.
Almost. Until
almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
Until.
Right.
Until we get that final battle between Obi-Wan and Darth.
There was so I remember we talked about in the first half conversation, the character, what's his name again? I can't think of his name. I don't want to butcher it. He was in Eternals.
Oh, Kumail Nanjiani.
Thank you, Kumail Nanjiani, and how Jamal? You know, his
Nanjiani, I'm sure of that part. I'm sure of.
So his character, right, the fake being the fake Jedi and all that was a little meh, you know, but his conversation with Kenobi, when Kenobi makes the decision to take a shuttle and draw an entire Star Destroyer away, because you know, he knows that Darth is going to follow him. He knows that he's not going to blow him out of the sky and then go right back to the rebel ship. But that conversation was so well done. You know, he's like,
right. Yeah. I mean, and the growth of that character, like that he's ready to take responsibility.
And you saw the moment that when he's explaining, he's like, I don't know what the word of a fake Jedi and a thief and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And Kenobi puts his hand on his shoulder and he says, it's good enough for me. And you saw the look on his face. That was a life-changing statement right there.
Yeah.
Like, that was the moment that character went from kind of a rogue who probably didn't care about anybody but himself to, if it's good enough for Kenobi, I can be better.
Right. And there's some great, I don't know how to put it. It's the mark of a hero, isn't it? A mark of a hero that you make people better around you.
Yes.
That you inspire other folks to be better than they have been. I mean, that's what Captain Marvel does. That's what Captain America does. That's what
100%.
You know, the best of us, that's what they do. Or just regular people, like in real life, like that's what they do. They make us want to be better. And I know that was captured really, really well in that moment.
It was, and it was captured again. And we saw the early strength reveal of Leia and her ability to influence. Like, she's the whole reason, right? Her and Luke, but she's the whole reason that Obi-Wan does what he does, because he starts to see, you know, her passion for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
He's like, here's a child, right? Or 10. Right. And he's not only wanting to keep her safe, but now he sees all these other people willing to fight for what's right.
Yeah.
And he says it, right? He says, you've protected us for so long. It's my turn, right? This is what we were supposed to be. Like he didn't say that, but you saw it, right? It was the underlying, this is what the Jedi were supposed to be.
Right. And it's kind of cool that, you know, the strength of Leia's character, just what we were saying, what Obi-Wan did for Nanjiani's character, like Leia's character, the strength of her character inspires Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, solidifying Leia as maybe truly the heart of this whole story.
Oh yeah, I would think so. I would think so. And you know who else I really liked and I want to see more of is I can't think of his name, but Ice Cube's son is the kind of the leader of that rebel group, and I can't think of his character's name. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Is it Broken?
Broken, maybe. Yeah.
Is the guy's name O'Shea Jackson Jr.? I didn't know it was Ice Cube's son.
Yeah, it's Ice Cube's son. He's been in a few things. He's really a good actor. I enjoy watching him.
And I liked his line at the end, something about "I'm just getting started."
Yes, right. Like even now, that kind of makes the hair on my arm stand up when Obi tells him, you know, there's a lack of leaders left. These people follow you. Don't stop.
Yeah.
And he smiles and says, I'm just getting started.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see, you know, kind of where that goes too. But man, so many great, like, inspirational moments.
Absolutely.
And then like Riva, right, discovers the little communicator and realizes there's a child.
Yep.
And heads to Tatooine.
How she survives that lightsaber to the gut, I don't really understand, but we'll go with it because it gave her a chance to really shine even more in this last episode.
Well,
Moses Ingram was fantastic in this role.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And the character arc for Riva was really good. Like to go all the way to Tatooine with this murderous intent and essentially take revenge against Vader by killing his son as a child.
Yeah.
Because of everything. And then she's at that pivotal moment. She's fought Uncle Owen. She's fought Aunt Beru. She's made it through. Luke's taken off into the desert to try and be safe. And she catches up with him in the canyon and pulls him down off of the ledge. And he's helpless. And she can't do it.
Yep.
Right. And she comes walking out of the desert. You know, this is the obviously after the big pivotal battle between Obi-Wan and Darth, and you know, Obi-Wan's made it back to Tatooine, and he's there with
scrambling looking for Luke,
and here she comes with him in her arms.
Yeah, right. Which doesn't that call back to episode 4? Like Luke, like everybody's always calling out for Luke.
He's always getting lost.
Yeah,
exactly. He's always getting lost.
And she comes out, and what a great moment. Like she gets to, I feel like she gets to forgive herself. You know, she's carrying all this guilt, like sort of survivor's guilt for being the one that got out, and all of her youngling partners and family didn't.
Right.
And you could like that just, it had broken her. That guilt had broken her. And she found a piece of her. Sure. And she found a piece. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, like that's the only way that character makes any sense is if that guilt breaks her. And she finds her way. She finds a piece of her humanity again. I thought it was a great
scene. Well, and you know, she asks if she failed, if she's become him. Yeah. And Obi-Wan's like, no, you honor everybody by not doing this.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's an important, like, we get so many revenge stories in the movies where somebody kills so and then that John Wick,
I've got a certain set of skills, and I'm gonna
The entire
Getcha.
John Wick series, which
Yeah.
I love, right?
Right.
It's phenomenal series, is all based on, and rightfully so, because they kill a dog. That's just
Beyond the
unforgivable.
pale.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, sure.
There's so many times it's like the hero goes on this killing spree to take out all the bad guys because they took something from him.
Yeah.
And that's how you honor that. This showed a different avenue, like
Right.
honoring the loss of all those folks by not doing that,
by not becoming the enemy that you've been hunting. Like,
right,
gosh,
by not be.
It's Nietzsche, right? Like, don't careful when you're hunting monsters lest you become one.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's so true. And we see it in the real world. We see it in so many stories, but to me, that's a piece of a hero's journey, that Reva becomes one of the heroes because she refuses in the end to become the monster that she's been hunting for all these years.
Well, and Obi-Wan's the same thing.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a hero's journey. That's a very important note in the hero's journey of all the major heroes throughout Star Wars, is that the ones who don't succumb to that like murderous rage over a loss end up the real heroes, and are one hero who repeatedly cannot stop himself from giving in to that need for vengeance ends up becoming the biggest bad of them all.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And there's power there, as we see. I mean, that's the whole metaphor of the dark side, right? There's power in that vengeance.
Right.
But
you also lack freedom, because he doesn't have freedom, right? You get power in that vengeance, but you're a servant. He serves a master.
Yeah.
Right. He is 100% a servant in that master. And he says so at the end, clearly, like when Emperor Palpatine says, I wonder if your, feelings
too devoted to your former master.
Right.
And is it real? Is it real that he just can click that off? Let's flip that switch and be off. It felt like it.
Yeah. I mean, he was angry, right? He was angry. I thought it was interesting. So in this, we got the flashback of Obi-Wan and Anakin, right, training together.
Yes.
And Obi-Wan telling him, like, when it looked like Anakin was going to win, and Obi-Wan says, I don't remember what he says, but basically the gist of it was, you're too driven by a need to win.
Yeah.
Right. It's like so much so that you miss a lot. And that showed in the final battle between Obi-Wan and Darth. And man, if you were waiting throughout that series and had been somewhat disappointed that you hadn't seen Obi-Wan's like actual power come through,
yeah, that final episode was for you then.
Yeah, that I rewatched it this week because I was just like that scene, like Darth pulling the ground out from under him and burying Obi-Wan and then walking away thinking he had won. And we see Obi-Wan in there just kind of holding it, and he's that struggle. And then he sees Leia. Then he sees Luke in his mind, and you can see his facial demeanor change. Right. And he remembers. It's like he remembers why he became a Jedi, like what the purpose.
He remembers who he is.
Yeah, he remembers who he is. And all those rocks exploding into the sky.
Right. But it makes sense that it took that. He was the start of the series. He was a broken, defeated shell of a person.
Yeah, he was stealing sushimi off of the production line.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
No, I don't. That's what it looked like. But and he had zero at the beginning. He had so little, barely any force connection to the force, couldn't do anything, running for his life, and then finally, he comes full circle, I guess, back to being the super powerful Jedi. And John, you've been saying for a while now that Obi-Wan's really the ultimate Jedi, because he's the one who has defeated all the big bads.
Yeah. The only reason that he lost that battle on the Death Star to Vader when he did was because he chose to. He knew that in doing so would put Luke on the path needed to restore the Jedi and ultimately defeat the Sith. He also knew he was going to turn into Ghost Ben, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because that's something that he learned. How exciting was it, by the way, to see Liam Neeson show up as Qui-Gon at the end?
That's pretty great.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that was so good. I'm so glad he agreed to do that. He said in an interview recently, he said, of course I was going to agree to do that. Like, the idea of anybody else taking that character, like, just didn't make sense.
Right.
And I'm so glad that he chose to do that. Because it was such a good moment. Obi-Wan riding into the desert, and then all of a sudden you see a little shimmer, and there he was.
Yep. Got a long way to go.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I like that I like that ending as a, there's more here. And I would be fine if they don't do another season. I kind of feel like
I would not.
I kind of feel like they did what they needed to here. At some point you're kind of stretching it, but if we don't get another season, this to me, this season did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, episode 6 was pretty perfect.
Yeah,
like pretty perfect as a finale. However, I would be super happy to see more.
Oh, I wouldn't not watch it if they came out with more. I'm just,
right. I think that again, Obi-Wan is a character that has a ton there to work with, like a ton. So,
sure.
but he comes back to himself in that scene where he's buried under the rocks and explodes up, and he catches up with Darth Vader. And
because Darth is walking like he always does. Darth
is walking because he doesn't run. It could just be an issue with the servos in his knees.
Yeah,
that he just can't run. But yeah, he's walking like he does because he's confident, right? He's confident and assured that he has defeated. He believes he is the strongest Jedi, the strongest Force wielder in the galaxy. And the only reason that he is a servant to the Emperor is because he's emotionally just broken. Right. And we see some of that like self-realization at the end of the battle between Obi-Wan and Darth. But the scene, I gotta say this, like that, the continuation of the lightsaber battle was phenomenal. To see Obi-Wan throw Darth back into like the pillar, you were like, oh,
Obi-Wan came to play today.
I felt justified. I was like, yeah, okay, I was right. Obi-Wan's like the pinnacle of being a Jedi.
Yes,
in my mind. And then,
can we talk about the end of that? Like when he cracks open the mask.
Yeah. Well, and what led up to it, right, where he spreads his arms out, and all you see, right, are all those boulders behind him, and they just start pelting Darth Vader, like
raining fire, to use the Thanos term.
Yeah, that's a good call. And then he cuts that. Well, he hits him in the back, right? He smashes his respirator control.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
cuts open the mask, and then it gets a little weird. Then we get the dichotomy of the Hayden Christensen, the actor, and James Earl Jones, the voice.
I loved that. I thought that was so good. I thought that was so good. The voice modulator, right? That was, and we knew there was a voice modulator that existed within the helmet from, Jedi. When Luke takes the helmet off, right? So that his father can look on him with his own eyes and he speaks. He doesn't sound anything like James Earl Jones.
Correct.
So the voice modulator exists for whatever reason that they chose to put it in. Good on him. James Earl Jones was a good choice.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd like to change my GPS to sound like James Earl Jones.
That would be excellent.
That'd be so good. But I thought it was really cool how they did it. right? He starts out talking like Hayden Christensen, and then the voice modulator kicks like partway in,
Right. Yeah.
and it does some weird stuff. The strained respirator breathing was very reminiscent of when the end of Jedi as well.
For sure. And it speaks to the, I guess, the sort of broken dualistic nature inside of Vader. The whole, like the whole Anakin v Vader internal battle that's continually going on, apparently.
Well, yeah. And I mean, even, when Obi-Wan and Ewan McGregor is such a great actor. He starts tearing up when he sees the helmet cut open.
Yeah.
And you can see that sadness and that sorrow that's so present. And, he apologizes. He's like, I'm sorry, Anakin. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for it all.
Yeah.
And that moment where Hayden Christensen looks at him, and that they did something really interesting. I don't know if you caught it with the lighting. When Hayden Christensen says, "You didn't kill Anakin," the predominant light on his face is from Obi-Wan's lightsaber. As he goes and continues speaking, and we go back and forth, the light that ends up on him is predominantly from his lightsaber.
Interesting. I don't know that.
Yeah, I thought it was a really subtle nod to his change, right? Because in that one moment where he says, "You didn't do this to me. Like, you didn't do this. I killed Anakin." I was like, oh.
Yeah. So do you hear that? Did you read that as like almost full on multiple personality kind of thing? Like there's almost a separate personality in Vader, or is it, I guess it's metaphorical in some ways, but you know what I mean? Like it's just sort of an odd thing for him to say.
I think it was the moment, and almost yes, right? Almost yes to your point, not quite fully, because we always saw Anakin struggle back and forth between the light and the dark, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And those moments of light, right, were very clear and introspective and sad, because he knew what was going on. He could see it. He could feel it. He knew he wasn't right. He knew there was something off. He knew he wasn't the Jedi he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And he loved Obi-Wan. He looked at him as a father. He said that on multiple occasions. So I think that what we saw there was the last vestiges of that Anakin disappearing into the persona that was Darth Vader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That wouldn't surface again until the end of Jedi.
Right.
When until confronted with his own actual son. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. When he they're facing off his own son and sees his own son being tortured and, attempted to like be turned and killed by the Emperor, and that loss that turned him to the dark side. The ultimate end was his desire to protect Padme.
Yes.
And that's what drove him to the dark side, was that deep well of love that, like, he had lost his mom, and that fed the dark side, because he went out and killed all the Tusken Raiders and the younglings and everything else.
Right.
And then his desire to save Padme's life and the children's lives, right, were what drove him ultimately to the dark side.
Correct. So
his last remaining bit of love, right, was for Obi-Wan, as kind of a father figure. And we saw that little flicker of whatever that was, like, burn out. And then Darth fully emerge again in the rage of, "As I will destroy you." Right. And Obi-Wan realizing, my friend is truly dead.
Right.
And then, like you said, in Jedi, not until he's confronted with the possible death of his son do we see that light like fully emerge again.
Yeah, he finds that little piece of love again that's enough to bring him back. But just like Reva needed to forgive herself, I think in that moment Obi-Wan is able to forgive himself a bit too.
Yeah.
Enough.
Well, because the guilt that he was carrying around was that he had failed and killed his friend.
Yeah.
And he carried that burden, right? That
Yes.
his friend, his son, if you will, right, turned to the dark side and became like capable of killing younglings and became capable of executing other Jedi and did so, right? And then to realize that he wasn't the one who did that. He wasn't the one who did that. Like
Yeah, that
Anakin
ultimately Anakin is responsible for Anakin's actions.
right. And what a great story that like kind of moment lesson that is, right? You're not Anakin was clearly saying, I'm not a victim. I did this to me.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm responsible for me. You don't get that power. I am the power that destroyed myself. Right. And Kenobi finally realizing, yeah, like I did everything I could to help you and you made that choice.
Right. Right.
Okay. My friend is gone and I'm off.
Yep.
Right. How many people in our lives do we wish would do that? Right. Take that accountability. How many people in the real world do we wish would take that level of accountability and say, no, I did this. You guys didn't do this. I did this to me. And then how many of us wish we had the strength, like when that reveal happens from a toxic friendship, relationship, whatever, wish we had the strength to say, you're right.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
And I get to forgive myself and I'm done and I'm moving on and I'm going to be better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wallow in this sorrow and guilt and and hold myself back.
Yeah. I mean, it was really just like there was a lot packed into this.
Absolutely.
From from an emotional and life lesson standpoint that we really were gifted like this series.
Absolutely. This is to me in that sense, this is geek culture at its best, right? Helping us, or science fiction at its best, like storytelling at its best, when it helps us see ourselves in these characters and see how we find our humanity in these characters and in the story that they're telling. Like, to me, that's the mark of a really, really good story.
Yeah, I agreed, right? That moment of humanity, I think you touched on it, where we get to find that humanity. We see that within ourselves. We see the good, right? And we understand the actions of evil.
And that we're capable of it, that we're capable of hurting others and hurting ourselves and trying to choose better.
And there was a moment of where Obi-Wan realized as well, like his inaction was as responsible for the furthering of evil throughout the galaxy as anything.
Yeah.
Right. And he had to come to that realization. Either I'm going to have to take a stand and do something about it, or if I choose not to, more people are going to die.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What's the old Rush line? If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
It's true.
And it's super true.
Yeah.
And then if we fast forward past this, the moment where Obi-Wan comes out of the desert and is there talking to Uncle Owen
and Aunt Beru, how badass were those two?
And they were awesome. Aunt Beru being the one who's like, no,
we are not running. We are going to protect our house and our nephew. Like, bring it on, third sister. We are not running from you.
We don't care. We got you. Like, we're gonna fight
inspiring,
and
man.
Owen's face of like, well, okay then.
Right.
All right. I love seeing strong women on screen, and that was that was such a great moment. Such a great moment. In the end, right, in the conversation between Obi-Wan and Uncle Owen, and Obi-Wan saying, "You're right. He just needs to be a boy."
Mm-hmm.
right? That's it. And he needs you to take care of it.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
And then
we get the hello there.
Yeah. He's like, do you want to meet him? Of course.
Yeah.
Right? Of course. And he's got the ship in his hand,
Mm-hmm.
which we see Luke playing with at the beginning of A New Hope, right? Episode 4. And he walks up and we get the line.
Yeah.
The line is so iconic for Obi-Wan Kenobi character, right? It started in A New Hope. It's just one of those things. And he's like, that's so perfect. He's like, hello there. Like, just so good.
It really was
so good. Like, you just scream, and like I felt like a whole like room full of little minions just like losing their minds. Like,
that's pretty good. Yeah, that's true. Now, there are a couple of things, a series like this where you go back in time and all of a sudden characters are meeting. It kind of messes with stuff that's established from 40 years ago. Like if Leia and Obi-Wan had this important week together or whatever it was, how come there wasn't more of that, in New Hope, or those kind of things, or everything we've seen throughout the prequels, and then Obi-Wan's like, oh, I don't remember ever having droids. Like, there's some stuff that it throws that. Now, I don't care. It doesn't like ruin it for me, but I think it's important.
But I'm gonna blast all those out of the water. Give me a second.
All right.
Because I thought about this heavily. So a couple of things. One, how many interactions do you remember from when you were 10 with adults?
I mean, a few.
Well,
I couldn't say if it was exactly 10, but yeah.
But if you're 10 years old, right? I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm trying to think, like, who came to my house? When did I see my grandmother? Like, when did I see my uncles?
Okay.
When did I see these people? And I couldn't tell you. Like, I can get snippet memories of like time with my grandmother, snippet memories of time with my uncle, but I couldn't tell you at what point in my life those were. My parents probably can, right? But I couldn't, because I'm 10. And what my memory is it's of like toys and riding my bike and the things that were ultimately like, super important. Here's the other piece. All right. And I'm going to throw this out there. If you go back and watch A New Hope, when did Leia and Ben physically interact?
They really didn't, did they? There's only like a
never
moment.
Did.
They get her. That's right. Like, she's not on the ship.
Nope.
And they separate. Like, he gets the little short for a stormtrooper gets her. They get out of the cell and into the trash compactor, and don't they see each other from like across the way or something?
They never interact.
Wow.
They never interact. The only like the closest interaction that they have face to face is when he's watching the recording from R2.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan's not wrong. He never owned C-3PO. He never owned R2-D2. Those were Anakin's droids. Anakin built C-3PO.
Yeah.
Anakin had R2 that entire time. Those droids belonged to Anakin, not Obi-Wan.
Okay. All right.
So all the like how about there of like, but like it kind of, nope. If you go back and watch, Obi-Wan on the Death Star was off trying to shut down the tractor beam.
Yeah.
Leia was rescued by Han and Luke and Chewie.
Yeah.
The next time those guys see each other, right? Like, they're trying to get to the Millennium Falcon
and Obi-Wan's over in the wherever fighting Darth.
Fighting Vader.
Yeah.
And who knows how long it's been since Ben and Leia have seen each other.
Well, if she's okay, here's my counterpoint to that part. Now, for you and I, trying to remember memories from 10 is like 40 years ago. But in New Hope, Leia's like at most early 20s, mid 20s.
Dude, when I was
So
like
that's still
early
only
20s,
that's
mid-20s.
10 or 15 years ago instead of like 40. So I think there's a little more chance. But
Okay, so
your point is well
let's
taken that they don't actually see each other. So there's not really a chance for them to have an interaction, which is
right.
interesting. That's
Yeah.
good research on your part.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side of that, right? In the conversations between like Luke and Leia around Ben, she doesn't really ever mention that she knew him,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that could be for any number of reasons. She also doesn't allude to not knowing who he was.
True. And she obviously, I mean, she knew him enough to send him the message.
Right?
Your only
Yeah.
hope.
You're my only hope, Obi-Wan.
That's Obi-Wan.
And she calls him Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan, right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not Ben. She calls
Yeah.
him Obi-Wan.
Right.
Right? Because Luke says, I wonder if he means old
Ben.
like old Ben
Kenobi. Yeah.
Old Ben Kenobi. And Luke has clearly had enough interaction with Ben to know how to go find him.
Correct. Yeah, true.
So that connection, right, is definitely pointed to. I think that as we, and so, you know, kind of thinking about it, right, it also makes my point that people are implanting the idea that Leia and Obi-Wan had more interaction in A New Hope because their memory like kind of created that.
Yeah.
Right. So just saying, the mind plays tricks, right? It tells us like sometimes
makes connections that aren't necessarily there. And
yeah. How many times have you like remembered something and Joanne tells you that is not what happened?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Happens to me all the time, right? It's like, I don't think that's what happened. I'm like, sure it is. She's like, I don't think so. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, yeah.
So overall, in our classic, not yet patented Coffee and Capes rating system of overwhelmed, whelmed, or underwhelmed, what are you giving the Disney Plus Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi series?
If people haven't figured it out by now, I just don't feel like I should tell them, but I will. I was thoroughly overwhelmed. I loved it. It was everything. I'm, as a huge Obi-Wan Kenobi fan, and like I've talked about before, big Darth Vader fan, and thinking that Obi-Wan was the most underrated Jedi of all time. Like this, I'd waited for this forever. And Ewan McGregor, perfect. Perfect. Like they couldn't have picked a better person to embody Obi-Wan, and he really was perfect from like the jump in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. And some redemption for Hayden Christensen as the actor, who, you know, didn't have to be pouty, could just be completely badass, and boy was he.
Man, yeah, he was awesome. Yeah. You know, and you can say what you want, and I talked about it in the first, you know, midterm. It seemed a little weird that they brought him in and, you know, used him as the physical presence of Vader while
not using his voice, right?
Not using his voice. But his physical actions, his physicality as Vader, and then the flashback scenes, and then the finale, it just, yeah, like, way to go, Hayden Christensen. You are Darth Vader. Nice job.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you. I'm especially the way the finale really brought it all together, overcomes any flaws for me, and lands squarely in the overwhelmed camp.
Yeah,
for me as well.
It's so good. So good.
So much fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So everybody else, what'd you think? What did you like? What was off-putting for you? Or you know, what did we miss? I'm sure there's stuff we didn't talk about here that would be worthy of bringing up. So let us know.
Yeah.
Email, leave us a message on the socials, however you want to connect. We're happy to have you.
Carrier pigeon. Send Kevin Costner a message and tell him you'd like him to contact us.
Yeah, because we talk to him regularly. Well, John
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't have that sort of connection yet.
Right.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us for this episode number. And we'll look forward to seeing you, hopefully, or having you hear us next week when we hope to have
Ruben.
special guest Ruben, comic creator Ruben, best Archie comic ever. So looking forward to that next week. Until then, true believers, thanks for being with us. Bye.
Bye, guys.